Greg, welcome on Chaoszine. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Yeah, I've had about 3 weeks off from touring now, and so I'm kind of ready to get back to it again. For the first week, I was just enjoying being at home. Now I'm getting a bit bored, so I want to go away again. So yeah, we start rehearsals next week and then go away again. I was away for 4 months earlier this year, like South America, America, Mexico, King Diamond tour, festivals. So yeah, it's been a busy year already.
Also, 2025 is the year of new album, and I have to tell you that I find the cover for Ascension simply amazing. The painting of George Frederick Watts is, I think, is layered with themes and meanings also. After spending so many years in metal, do you see yourselves like the warrior surrounding the sword or the duke with the coronet?
I'm just looking. I have a print on my wall of it actually. I'm just
Oh,
looking at it
okay.
now.
Yeah.
Personally, I see myself as the angel figure, but that's just because I have achieved something like some kind of serenity in the last year or so, where I feel kind of calm in the middle of the storm, which is the opposite of what I was like before earlier in my life. So I'm not sure why it came about, but yeah, I feel not enlightened, but where you feel a little bit more attuned to life, like you're able to accept things and deal with things much better than maybe you could before. Because I used to deal with things really badly. So now you were talking about the painting. I can't take credit for the painting, obviously, George Frederick Watts, but it really fit the brief of the album because even though it's called Court of Death, and it probably had a different meaning to Watts, but to us, when we knew the album was going to be called Ascension, it really fits that brief really well because you've got the serenity and then you've got this kind of turmoil around it, the grief around it, and the colours as well. It's just the perfect colours. Baroque, these Baroque colours scream kind of autumn, winter, Christmas, type thing. So yeah, I love that. But the Serenity thing came about because about a year ago, just over a year ago, I had a really dark time in my life. It was getting darker and darker and darker, and then something switched, and I was like third person. I could see myself. This became what ascension means to me now. Like, is this what everyone was striving for years and years, for millennia? Like Buddhists call it nirvana or enlightenment, priests whipping themselves to achieve some kind of third person thing. In psychology, it was called dissociative disorder. But I think it's just all it is the mind's safety switch. So you can deal with things much better. And I think that's what happened. And I think that's why Ascension is, as a title, is really important to me, actually.
And Ascension is, if I'm not mistaken, your 17th album for
Yeah.
Paradise Lost. And
Yeah.
at what point does creating stop being about proving something and starts being about revealing something?
Yeah, it's not about proving anything to me at all. Not in the slightest. I don't really care who I prove anything to at all. It's maybe, I mean, when you bring something out, it's nice to get some affirmation, some kind of, oh, somebody else likes it too, kind of thing. But for me, it's always been about the creative aspect. That's the only reason I still do it. It's the only reason I ever did it. I personally, the live side of things, I can take it or leave it. I'm okay with it. But some of the other guys in the band love the live thing. But for me, it's always been about the creative, where you have a little idea in the back of your head and then you see it form slowly into something and then it becomes physical and then you can give it to someone and then they can either love it or loathe it. It's just that expression that I find very cathartic.
What are you still discovering about Paradise Lost that surprises you?
Nothing really surprises me, but with when we came to do this record, it's been 5 years since the previous record. It was kind of nice that it felt fresh and new still. Everything feels like it's our first album again. It just feels that way because we do try and separate ourselves from the past when we're writing a record or recording a record. So it's nice that we still have that vigor about us, that thirst for creativity and but it's how we keep our vigor. I mean, I love to learn. I still find it a learning curve. I still hear new bands and I still go, wow, I wish I'd have thought of that. So I think as long as we feel like that, as long as we're like kids in a candy shop with music, then there's no reason why we can't still create with the same enthusiasm. Whether it's relevant or not is up to other people because it's all about time as well, timing. Sometimes some albums we've brought out have been at the wrong time in musical history, and others have been at the right time, and that's something you can't plan on.
Musically, did you have a goal in mind when you were composing the tracks for Ascension?
First, it was a track by track thing. So I'd write a song, we'd get a song together, and we'd think, oh, that's really good. Okay, we'll put that to one side. We'll work on the next one, but the next one's got to be different from that one. And that's as much of a respite thing for us as anything else. So you write a song that's maybe quite bombastic, and then you want to write something more personal and mournful because of you've just done that other thing. And then when you finish the mournful personal thing, maybe you're in the mood to do something a little bit more ethereal, and then maybe something a little bit more bombastic again. I don't know. It's all about the flow. But the only thing I think when we'd got a collection of a few songs together, what became apparent to me was this most of this album was written last autumn and winter, and it's going to come out in autumn, which is good. So it was the feeling of autumn, winter, and Christmas that summed it up. It feels Christmassy to me, the album, somehow. I don't know. I know it's miserable, but it still feels Christmassy. There's still some kind of chink of light in there. There's something, the smell of smoke from people's chimneys, the crisp mornings, the misty evenings, and that's even down to the cover. I said the Christmas type feel thing. That became apparent, and that's when I started to do things the rest of the band didn't know about, but then they were like, okay, that works. Like I put sleigh bells on 3 tracks. I thought if I can get away with it, I'm going to do it, so why not?
So, when you're recording demos on the software that you normally use, how do you name the initial projects that are ultimately your songs?
It's kind of stupid. It's usually a short one word thing. And Serpent on the Cross was called Nana because, not because of your Nana, because of your grandma or whatever. It was because of the first idea for the song was me humming into a dictaphone. I was going na 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 na. So I just thought Nana. It's just the first thing that pops into your head. So yeah, I can't remember a lot of the other working titles, but they're equally as stupid. The thing, I look around the room, I think, right, what pops into my head? Okay, we'll call it that for now. And that's usually it. And they're usually like ridiculous. But then they're kind of those titles are kind of ingrained in your head. And it takes you a long time to get used to them. When Nick's finished the lyrics or we've agreed on a song title, it takes another 2 or 3 months for us to go, oh, it's that one, right? Okay. So Serpent on the Cross is Nana, right? Okay, okay. You know,
Paradise Lost has influenced lots and lots of bands like Cradle of Filth, Chelsea Wolf, and many, many contemporary artists as well. When you hear someone that has been influenced by your art, does it feel like you're watching a child grow up and move away?
and sometimes I know it was with bands like Catatonia, for instance. I remember when they first did a gig with us. It was in Norway. We played together at Rockefeller, I think it was in Oslo. They were kind of young, very young, and I remember thinking, oh, this band are really good, but they sound really like us. And then they came back afterwards and wanted photographs with us. They won't mind me saying this. They were very fanboyish. And we still have those pictures and we still look at them. It's kind of funny because we're really good friends with them now, and we have been over the years. And they obviously went off then and then did their own thing. So in that respect, sometimes. it's definitely like a child. It's like, oh, they've become this big, fantastic, creative thing on their own now. And but every band starts like that somehow. You know, we started emulating a certain bunch of bands or music and then found our own style. And that happens with pretty much every band. I mean, if you don't find your own style, then it's kind of a bit weird, you know. But yeah, it can be like that, especially if you get to know the people and well, Opeth as well, you know. You get to know the people and then you can kind of laugh about it later that, you know, like maybe we were an inspiration or something in the early days. But it's weird being the old father time of the scene now, though. It's like Mike from Opeth. What did he call me? The godfather of goth or something like that. And it's like it's kind of cute and nice, but it also makes you feel a bit old.
And yeah, I think you are like pioneers of Gothic metal. And today, I think that more contemporary genres blend more more often and more instantly online with artists. Do you think that this is the death of musical movements?
I think if you can make it work, it's very difficult to blend very juxtaposed genres and make it gel as its own thing. And the bands that do it well are all big because they've done it really well. Yeah, it's no mean feat, but I do think it's the ideal scenario because then you come up with a sound that's fresh, I guess, you know. It's really hard to do. I think if you do it subliminally as well, if you're not going out to like, right, I want to merge this with that or this with that, it can kind of compromise the songwriting and come across as a bit cliched. But I think if you do it almost subliminally, you just like a lot of things and that just leaks into what you do. It can be magical. A good example of that is Messa, the band, the Italian band who we're about to take out on tour. My son actually told me about them. I didn't know about them. I knew the logo because I thought the logo's great. I thought I would wear a t-shirt with that on. But I hadn't heard them. And then my son, who now works in the music industry, he sent me their latest record. And I thought, some of this really shouldn't work, but it does. So it's that's a testament to good songwriting and honesty in songwriting, you know, doing that subliminal mixture of things, you know. So, yeah, and it's a handful of bands do it really well, I think, you know.
As an Italian, I couldn't be prouder of what you just said. So
Oh, okay. I had no idea.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. So 2025, I mean, there's new album, you have tour, you have been touring, so lots of positive things, but also, unfortunately, it took away from the metal world, the Prince of Darkness himself. Was Ozzy or Black Sabbath an influence for Paradise Lost?
Not initially, because I wasn't, this sounds weird, but I wasn't aware of them. I'm late to the party with Black Sabbath. I say late to the party, it's still a long time ago because I'm older. But the first few years of our career, up until maybe 1991, they weren't on my radar because I grew up in the punk and goth scene um, in the 80s. So just wasn't on my radar. But then I was into bands like some of the bands that were crossing over, Celtic Frost, and I liked Trouble. We were on the same label as Pentagram. And so I liked all them bands. And I was like, oh, well, they're always mentioning Black Sabbath. So in like 1990, 1991, I got stupidly into Black Sabbath and then started obsessing on them. And our third record, Shades of God, then by default almost became a very Sabbathy album. And it's our only album that's even like that. But I kind of like it because it's something totally different. You know, it's one of our most under talked about albums. But yeah, they definitely became that. And then a couple of years after that, we were touring with Ozzy, which kind of blows your mind. You know, it was, and we did many gigs with Ozzy and Sabbath over the years. So it was, yeah, very sad that he's gone, end of an era. But who gets to go out like that? That was frigging amazing. Says goodbye and then gone. You know, it's nobody usually gets to say goodbye to everyone in one go. You know.
Most definitely. Yeah. Do you remember like the first time that you met Ozzy?
We were in South America. I think we were in Brazil. We were backstage at some stadium. We were in our dressing room getting ready to go on, and Ozzy just walks straight in the dressing room and he just starts talking to us. And we're all like shaking his hand and talking, having a laugh. Then he leaves, and we're all like high-fiving each other and jumping up and down and going, woo, an American rap band or something. Yeah, yeah, just yeah. You know what I mean? And but then we heard in the corridor Ozzy saying, like to his assistant, da, 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 and he said, "You got the wrong dressing room, Ozzy." So he'd only walked in by mistake. We thought he was introducing himself, but he'd come in by mistake. But it was still great, still a special moment. And we met him a lot of times after that, and he was always really down to earth, really lovely. I know everyone said this, but there are far, far smaller bands that at festivals that separate themselves and have separate catering and separate dressing room areas. And Ozzy never did that. Every festival we played, he's there in catering with everyone else. It's so that's testament to him keeping his feet on the ground. But it could be his upbringing as well, because I mean we're at a much smaller level, obviously. But when you come from sort of very working class areas of old industrial towns, nobody lets you get beyond your station. You're never allowed to become a rock star because you're slapped back down again. And so you should be, you know better than anyone else.
So, returning to Ascension, you described traversing your arsenal sounds in the album. If each track of the album was a room in a house, what kind of
Yes.
architecture would Ascension be?
Oh, crikey, that's a tough one. Um, I can't even think of the track listing now. I might have to just do a few of the tracks. Serpent on the Cross sounds quite, I mean, to use that word again, it's very, and Silence Like the Grave, the second track, not the second track, the other single. They're both super bombastic songs, very, probably something like Renaissance type, a little bit over the top, you know, Renaissance type architecture. My favorite song on the album is Salvation, which is the most Christmassy song as well. I would say that's more like that always made me think of the book and the film Name of the Rose, In the Name of the Rose. Do you know it? Umberto Eco and the film with Sean Connery. So that kind of 13th century crumbling church type thing. That's what it makes me feel of with crows flying around in it and things like that. And then there's something like Lay a Wreath Upon the World, which is far more close and personal. So I'd say that's like more of a drawing room, a sitting room, maybe like a Victorian drawing sitting room where you can just hear the clock ticking and you just sat there reading a book, like. But yeah, I think I've used up all my knowledge of architecture there, so I don't know if I can do any more.
Yeah, that's awesome as a like different perspective on the album. Jeff
What a
Singer
great
has
question.
Oh,
Great
thank you.
question.
Thank you. If I'm not mistaken, Jeff Singer has returned as your drummer after
Yeah,
being away for like what lots of years
yeah.
and replacing Valtteri. How did it feel working again with someone who had witnessed like an earlier version of Paradise Lost?
It's cool because we've kept in contact with Jeff over the years. He originally left the band for very honest reasons. He wasn't married, didn't have children when he first joined Paradise Lost. Then he got married, he had three children close together, and he just wanted to be with his family. And that's, of course, why not? But now his children are a bit older and he's like itching to be out doing it and things. So he's very enthusiastic. And it's nice to have that shot of enthusiasm. When you're four slightly miserable, grumpy old not Northern English guys, it's good to have a little bit of a shot of enthusiasm in the arm, to lift your spirits a little bit. Yeah, so it's nice. He's not as jaded as we are. We're quite jaded, I guess, which is I know it's a horrible word. He seems like he's more like a Bambi type character. He's like wide-eyed and we're walking around at festivals and he's like taking in the big lights of the city or something like that, you know. We're all like looking at the floor grumbling, you know. So yeah, it's nice to have that Bambi back in the band again, bouncing around, you know.
With Paradise Lost, obviously you've toured like extensively. You are still touring extensively. Can you share with us like a profound or a deep human interaction you've had with a fan? How do you handle like being maybe like a stranger salvation or like soundtrack to their darker moments?
I've had a few people say our music got them through certain, you know, darker times or whatever. That's what music does, especially music like ours. It's escapism. Meant to take you away somewhere else, and that's always very, very touching because I know that music does that for me as well. You know, so to hear that our music does that for someone else can help them through something. You know, maybe an illness, maybe whatever. I know we released our last record before this one right at the start of COVID. We were told by the record label, maybe you shouldn't release it, maybe you should wait. But we released it because we thought, you know, people are just going to be sat with nothing to do. And it's going to be like, they want music to listen to, they want books to read, they want to, you know, we thought it was important to do that. And I think it actually worked for us because I think people listened deeper than they would have done normally, maybe. So yeah, there's been a few interactions like that where people say things like that. There's not one in particular that I can think of as a specific thing. You asked about me, how I interact very awkwardly. I live on my own. I like living on my own. I like silence. I don't deal with crowds well. I don't deal with people well. Socializing is a no-no. I never go to bars or restaurants. I don't drink. Being approached by people freaks me out. It kind of, you know, I'm in the wrong business in one way, you know. So even things like signing things, not from the social aspect, but I never wanted anything signed by another band. I kind of don't understand why anybody wants something signed. Maybe it's just to make things personal, I suppose. But it's yeah, I'm an awkward person socially, not good with it. So actually, this is a good opportunity for me to say to people, don't think I'm being an asshole if I'm like looking at the floor and kicking leaves and things while you're talking to me. It's just because I'm socially awkward, you know. Yeah, yeah.
Not everybody is like extroverted or minds being around people all the time. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that's absolutely valid
yeah,
as a
yeah.
feeling
I
and
mean,
as a, like behavior. I mean, it's totally okay.
yeah, I mean, I didn't get into this to be some kind of, you know, a lot of people get into bands. It's weird to try and get an audience and try and be famous somehow. And that's the opposite of what I wanted. You know, I just wanted to let people hear what I was thinking. That's it, you know, and the other things are a byproduct. And it's nice, like I say, like affirmation. It's like, oh, a pat on the back, you know. But holding small talk is not my forte, you know.
Yeah, I'm Italian, so I love small talk. So this is why I always, when I interview also like uh, Finnish people that are usually not also very good at small talk, I can see
Yeah.
they're freaking out. Like, no, don't make small talk with me. Just ask me the question, and it's good. So
That's funny because I remember the first time we came to Finland, I think it was 92, 91, I'm not sure. We had an instant affinity with the Finnish people. It was like it's like my hometown had been put in a different country because everyone was the same. They're all like everyone's a bit socially awkward, everyone's a bit shy. Everyone has this dark sense of humor where they're self-depreciating, you know, and it's it was really like, wow, finally found another place that's like where I grew up, you know.
did it ever happen to you to spend like a period of time, like a week or more, without writing anything?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I find it hard because I always kind of every minute of every day the brain's going, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. Productive thing, which is why I've never been able to do things like gaming. I want to be able to do gaming like the rest of the band. They sit on their things all day when we're on tours and stuff, and I'm just like, but I should be doing this. I should be writing something. I should be. So I have this thing in me where I can't stop almost. But yeah, I have periods, and I make myself do it as well. In fact, one of the things I've done while I've been at home this time is I have quite a nice garden, and I don't particularly like gardening, but I find it therapeutic. I find the when you finish doing something, it's very rewarding. I kind of like the silence of just working away in the garden. And then at the end of the day, you're covered in dirt, you go and have a shower and you feel accomplished somehow, and it's a good amount of time where you're not thinking about anything else. You're not being productive, you're not doing anything. It's just your mind's blank, and that's great.
You're talking to someone who has like family farm, so I perfectly
Oh,
understand. So
I have nothing so grand, but it's there's some nice trees and things that I have that I prune, you know.
they still need to be tended. So I mean, somebody has to
Yeah.
do that.
But that's the worst part of going on tour for me, I have to say,
Oh,
is I have cameras on my house looking over the garden, and I'm always looking at my garden thinking, oh, this is going to take a lot of work when I get home. If you're away for 7 weeks, it's like oh, weeds are up here, and stuff. So,
Greg, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. It was a
no,
pleasure.
you're welcome, Bernadette. Some
Yeah,
really, really cool questions.
thank you.